Special thank you to the sponsors of Russ Reels Live, D. Scott Smith, the Alzheimer's Association, and We're Local of Salem.
Networking for Students, now available on Amazon, dscottsmith.com/students. Order a copy for your student or the graduate in your life.
And for information on the Alzheimer's Association and how to give to this amazing organization in the fight against Alzheimer's, go to alz.org. And finally, for We're Local, connecting people with local places, go to we'relocal.io.
And that's it. We are live here on Russ Reels every Thursday afternoon at 4 p.m. Pacific, right here on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and all of those streaming channels that you can see these fabulous guests here on the screen. And today we're going to be talking about abundance and scarcity. And just to remind everybody, please follow Russ on YouTube and grow that channel, share it out. It costs nothing to sign up, to like that his channel, and share it out with friends, because you get replays of fabulous stuff like from the guest panel today, Tracy, Rosalinde, Bob, Ingor, and myself. And so, and thank you to all the sponsors that make this possible. So we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to be, for those of you who aren't in the green room, we should record this, because it's like the bloopers reel that everyone wants to watch at the end of the. Remember back when we used to watch movies on DVD? Yeah. Anyway, it was a long time ago.
What are you talking about? I have this theory that I don't want to chase movies around streaming networks, so I just buy them now.
Yeah.
That.
It's the way it goes. So, in fact, a friend of mine said, "How many times did you buy the White Album?" Back to the Beatles, right? You bought it on an LP, then it was 8-track, then it was cassette, right. Then it was CD, and then it was you bought MP3. It on MP3. You bought the MP4, so you could play it, and then you bought it back on LP again. So everything goes in a cycle. You should have kept that. Abundance and scarcity. So we've got perspectives to talk about, and we're going to go through. We're going to learn about who the guests are today, what's going on in their world, and we're going to share some great insights about this. And I'm thinking about optimists and pessimists. And Benjamin Franklin said that the pessimist is always looking for the worst to happen, and the optimist is always looking for the best to happen, and is therefore continually being disappointed. So it gives you a little bit of idea on his hand. We think about all of the things that we have, and all the time where we live, where we're living, and where we have lived. I've got a book coming out soon called Reluctant Time Traveler: Why We Are Notoriously Dissatisfied. And part of it is because when we're young, we're always looking forward. I can't wait till I'm out of school. I can't wait to get a job, get a promotion, have a family. Then you get to that point where I can't wait till my family gets out of the house and I'm retired. And then there becomes a point where you're looking back and you go, wow, I wish I could play basketball for 4 hours on a concrete court and still feel good and still walk at the end of that. So we are notoriously dissatisfied with where we're at. And back in 1999, it was a psychology something today. Anyway, it was Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, and the reason I say that name is because I can and I practiced it. And he wrote an article, said that if we are so rich, why are we not happier? And so we have in today's world especially in the Western world, we have unbelievable riches compared to our ancestors. We have lots of stuff. We have lots of comfort. We live in relative safety. And anyway, with that as a foundation, we want to talk about abundance and scarcity and our perspective and what really is going to make us happy. So let's find out who this distinguished panel is. And so we're going to start with Roz.
Oh,
give us your 1 minute intro.
That word'll be like 15 seconds. That I was just saying that if I sound like Lauren Bacall, it's because I'm under the weather. I'm an executive coach and I focus on the career, leadership, and transition. And you can find me here on LinkedIn. So that was my 15-second spiel. And you know, is this our third time or our fourth? Is this our number 3? Oh, wow. Okay. So this is our number 3. And, you know, we've had like really great conversations about this. And, you know, thinking about, you know, what's going to make us happy, you know, as you were saying, I think that's all relative. You know, when we look at the scarcity and we look at, you know, we're constantly in this frame of mind of that, noticing what is, you know, sometimes we don't even notice that it's scarcity. We don't even notice that we're comparing each other, you know, person to person. We have that FOMO, you know, that fear of missing out, and it's always like the lack thereof. And it takes us a while. You were mentioning this at the very beginning. You were practicing the name because it was difficult to pronounce. Well, it takes practice to notice our thoughts first. And when we do that, and I think that's the hardest thing to do, is to become like that aware that, I'm just doing this right now, and to stop ourselves to do that. I think that's one of the first steps, I think, in what is going to make us happier in the end. And that's putting a stop to that thought process. And I'm sure everyone has, like, you know, something to say about that, but it's just really being aware first. And I think it's Tracy that mentioned in one of our times, you know, is just noticing, you know, what's around you at the present moment. And, you know, making a dream a reality is not, it begins with what you have in front of you, not what you're waiting on.
Absolutely. Bob, let's get your intro.
That was a long intro, Roz.
You know, well, you know, I needed to like practice.
Hey, we got to use her voice while we can.
That's true.
Yeah.
And I have to say, Scott, that we're the abundance people. So I take exception to I'm happy, right? That we're all here to tell you why we're all happy. But anyway, I'm Bob Feathers. I am Senior Project Manager at Bindable. We are in the InsurTech space. We're a SaaS provider. But on the personal side, I'm husband, father, an avid cook, a wine collector, and a student of the cocktail. And this is conversation number 3. So I think, again, we're just going to keep building on our conversation and keep trying to help people think of ways differently, how to think differently, and how to really be in that, again, that abundance mindset.
Absolutely. And Tracy.
Hey, everybody. I'm super excited for part 3 of this conversation. I'm Tracy Borreson. I am all about authenticity. So I do that sometimes in marketing, but I mostly just try to do that in life with people. And it's always really interesting to me because I think that authenticity is very heavily interrelated to abundance. And kind of, as like Roz said, if we don't know what works for us, then abundance doesn't exist by collecting a whole bunch of things that other people want. So I'm excited to continue the conversation. And we didn't have Ingor last time, and we have Ingor back this time. So I'm really excited. Because this is our opportunity to practice our abundance as well. And the reason, if some of you are wondering, like, why do you guys keep coming back and having the same show? It's because we feel very abundant in this conversation. We have all decided that this opportunity allows us to be abundant. And so here we are practicing. If you are here because it makes you feel abundant, great. But also, where do you get to practice? So that's my challenge while we finish our intros.
Ingor.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for having me back. I know I wasn't here the last time, but I was away. My name is Ingor van Rooi, and I am recognized as a community connection catalyst. I'm a strategic business coach, and I help entrepreneurs and businesses focus on community. Community is very important because I am driven by the principle of Ubuntu, which means I am because we are. And my focus on Ubuntu helps me feel abundant. So I'm excited for this conversation. Thank you, Scott, for hosting.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's just an honor and a privilege to be able to hang out with my friend Russ and do our show, The Experience Live with Russ and Scott, our new show, The Experience Local, which also broadcasts on radio. Ingor, by the way, is an international radio personality. And so fun to have you here. And Russ is, by the way, not here because he's taking some time with his family. And so we give him that leeway. So one of the things about abundance, there was some work out of University of Texas at Austin out of their marketing department. And they were describing the difference between abundance and scarcity. And if you live in a world of scarcity, there are winners and losers. But if you live in a world of abundance, there are winners and winners, right? And so this is one of the ways that I look at it. And as I mentioned earlier, Mihai Chick sent me hi. Here's his book. This is his book, Creativity, which I like. He also wrote the book, Flow. I like this one better, not just because he signed it for me and I got to meet him before he passed away, but the creativity, I think, is part of one of those things that gives us joy. And so in his book, Flow, and in the article that I mentioned, he talks about these things that get you so involved that it takes total concentration, and it is the activity in itself, not any outcome or any particular goal or motivation we have beyond just the execution of that project. And so I'm wondering here with our august panel, who has experienced flow and found joy just in the doing of whatever it is that you do? Mr. Bob Feathers.
All the time.
Okay. Anyone else would like?
No.
Oh, go ahead, Bob.
All the time. But we talked about this, and again, kind of, I can't tell you, so go back and watch show 1 and 2. But again, I talk about it, the process, concentrate on the process, right? Not necessarily the end result. And so in my own, it's easy for me because that's my mind, how my mind works, is I'm a very process oriented person. And so it's at work, right? There's that project management thing where you're just kind of immersed in the work. You got that list of stuff and you're just like, you're working through it. Next you're like, oh, it's 5 o'clock. And you're like, okay, cool. Like, and your day flows and you're just working and you're getting things done. And then I go home and I like to, as I mentioned, I like to cook. And especially I'm having a dinner party tomorrow, having guests over. And as much as I love the dinner party, which I do, and I've learned to actually like that better too, and being present for the dinner party. But the process, I just love that process because all of a sudden you're immersed in just this cooking and you're doing it and you're doing this and you got this and that thing's on the stove and this thing's in the oven and you're chopping this. And then again, next thing you're just like, oh, cool. I've made all these great dishes and I'm cleaning up. And it's just, again, that time flows. And I enjoy that. I think, again, people think of cooking as a chore, but I've been doing it my whole life. I really find it, joyful. I like that process. I like just being involved and using my hands and thinking about the end a little bit, right? Just being with my friends,
I like to
enjoying
eat.
conversation. So
yeah, I like to eat, so I like to cook, and I found that it is not a sin to like your own cooking, by the way.
Yeah.
So it's okay.
Yes.
Let's go.
I would
Ingor,
love
then-
if I liked my own cooking.
Oh my God, that is
Let's go to Ingor and then Ross. Ingor, you had a
Oh my
God.
goodness. I don't think I've ever shared this before, but I love to cook as well. I think food has been it's just been part of my life always, from being a young girl. And I started my first recipe book when I was 11 years old.
Oh,
Yeah.
we find things out on these talks that we never knew about people.
Right? Yeah. So I love experimenting when I cook. My husband will tell you that even if I make the same thing next week, it's not going to taste the same because I'm going to experiment in some way, shape, or form. And that's really where I am creative. This painting behind me is not mine. Well, it's mine, but it wasn't done by me. And I always say that, I'm not an artsy kind of a person, but I pour myself into other creative ways of expressing myself. So, yeah.
Ross.
I wanted to go back to what Bob was saying, that just being on the other side of that, of process. I don't want people to walk away thinking, oh my God, process has to be complicated. It does not have to be complicated at all. And something as simple as we were talking about, music before coming in, listening, that active listening and listening to how the notes go up, where they go down, the inflections of the music, that is almost the same thing as process. Walking out into nature and being connected, listening to the crunch of the branches under your feet. How do your feet, feel like when you're walking on grass, or you're walking in the forest, or you're walking on a path? And just being connected that way is the same thing as, the process that Bob was talking about. It doesn't have to be something that's unreachable. Everybody can have something to connect to.
There's something interesting about that. And you just talk about going out, because there's actually been research that shows that when people see grandeur in nature, and it could be like the sunset that I've got right behind me here, this picture, standing on the edge of the Grand Canyon, the ocean, the mountains, a beautiful plain full of wildflowers, right? That when people experience natural grandeur, they tend to become more philanthropic after that, right? So they want to be more generous. Tracy, you're up.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you, I got stuck on this point about winners and losers.
I'm excited to hear this.
It's making me like, I mean, depending on how you define winning and losing, that happens in life, right? Like, that car went faster at the green light. That person got the job, but I didn't get the job. There's like a whole bunch of things that I think we could see as winning and losing, which means we could also identify the people as winners and losers. I think I would disagree, though, that is really like the difference between abundance and scarcity, because I don't think living with abundance means you never lose. I mean, like, I don't know any single coach who's like hasn't run a program and nobody registered for it, right? We could consider that a loss. We could consider a whole bunch of things lost. I reached out to this person, they didn't respond to my email. There's a whole bunch of societal things that we could consider losing. But I don't think that necessarily has to put you into scarcity mode. I think you can stay in abundance mode and experience losses. And I think it might be interesting to look at that for this episode, because we haven't touched on it yet in any of the other episodes. And I think this is like a categorization thing. Like, oh, we lost, so now I'm a loser. So now I'm in scarcity mode. And like that mindset doesn't really help you, right? Like I can go to the store and they don't have the toy I was looking for, and it's my son's birthday tomorrow, right? And I could be like, oh no, scarcity. Or I could be like, oh, but look at that thing. I never even thought about that. That would be like a really cool thing for him to have. And now it's more unique because no one else probably thought of it either. So like, I'd love to hear what everybody else thinks on that.
Changing perspective.
Yes,
All right.
exactly.
Bob,
Yeah, I
you're
was
up.
gonna say, like, it's just the simple change the word, right? When we talk about words matter.
Yeah.
It's a failure. And failure's not a bad thing because you learn from failures, right? You learn from those mistakes. So again,
And
back
if
to
you
your point,
don't
it doesn't have to be
fail, then you
scarcity,
don't
right?
learn. And learning feels like abundance to me. I don't know.
Correct. That's that kind of thing. Like you said, like, oh, I put this thing out here and no one registered. Could
Yeah.
I have done it in a different channel? Did I have the right messaging? Like you just kind of go like, oh, maybe I need to. So what do I need to do different to find a different result, right? But the idea is that you have to. It's almost like you never find success if you don't actually have failure, right? Because how would you know you're successful if you didn't, in a way, lose,
Yeah.
right?
Well, there has to be a measure. There has to be a measurement of some
Right.
sort.
Of
Yeah.
some
Well, I
sort.
would also say that there's a bunch of people, myself included, who have, from like a worldly perspective, achieved abundance, right? You have the house and the car and the salary and all these things, and
Material.
didn't feel abundant. So
So I think part of this is what are we looking at as abundance and scarcity, right? Where are we looking at it? So if I have a pitcher of water and there's 5 of us here on the screen, we got 5 glasses, and I want to fill each one of them up, I'm going to run out of water in that pitcher, right?
apparently
have
by the year 2030,
if I
we're going
go-
to run
but
out
if I
of
take
fresh
it out of
water
the-
for humans on the planet.
But if I go to the faucet, I can fill
Mhm.
every glass up and refill it, right? Because
And
it's
say
gonna
it
keep
right, the
coming.
spigot.
If I go to the spigot, if I bring the garden hose in through the window instead of the pitcher,
Would I
Right.
be drinking it?
no one would drink it. So then we're all
Forget
no.
it.
But I'm just saying, that what we're looking at is when it comes to the resources, is there enough, or is there not enough to go around?
Are we talking natural resources, or are we talking?
We're talking abundance and scarcity as defined by Rosalinde
Oh gosh.
or Ingor or Tracy or Bob or any of the number of folks who are tuning in live or in replay here.
So when we're thinking about that, let's think about the scarcity part. Are we, we get into this mode and we make up maybe stories in our brains that might not be true. So
Just to
I
confirm,
say-
Roz, we for sure make up stories in our brains
Okay.
that are not true.
So, of course. So I, challenge the thought process.
Mm.
So are these thoughts driven by facts? Or are they driven by the fear and the conditioning that
Yes.
we are constantly under that makes us feel like there is scarcity?
I believe it's perspective, Ross.
Yeah.
So what happens is, I was at this little trade show deal, and I'm talking to 2 suppliers of lab supply equipment, right? So they sell all the glassware and the chemicals and things like that for labs. And these 2 companies are fairly identical, similar size. The people I was talking to both had similar senior roles within the company. And one of them was like doom and gloom, right? I mean, the industry's bad. They're closing down. There's not enough funding for the schools. There's businesses are discontinuing their research. And the other guy was like, man, there's just new opportunities. There's new products being created. The universities are figuring out that they can actually turn their ideas into sellable products and so forth, right? And I remember thinking at that time, if I came back 3 or 5 years from now, one of these guys will still be working there and one of them will not. One of the businesses will still be operating, and one of them will not. But it was the same economic conditions, same market, same thing, right?
Isn't that
Abundance
the premise
and
of the
scarcity.
book? Who moved my cheese? It's the one that is thinking, oh my gosh, let me just gather because something's going to be happening here. And the other one's like, well, you never know what might be happening. So again, are we driven by fear and conditioning? And when I say condition, we are conditioned from our environment. We are conditioned by our friends, our family, our culture. There's a lot of things driving that fear. It's not just, we just woke up one day and we have like that scarcity thing. It comes from somewhere.
So I'll ask Tracy this. If you get introduced to another marketing person, are you afraid?
No, I'm curious.
Why? Yeah, why?
Because they're not the same as me. One, we might have things that we could like collaborate on. They probably almost always have an expertise that I don't have or a set of knowledge that I don't have, which means partnering is better for me because now I have access to a cool person who has more knowledge than I have. Yeah. And there's something, I think this is where I come back to the authenticity point of this is I believe there are people in this world and businesses in this world that I am the best person to serve them. I'm the best person to serve them. I am not the best person to serve all people, all businesses. And so I have this thing I say to people very often, which is I believe networking is about solving problems. And I have a certain amount of time in my day. We all have a certain amount of time in their day. Everybody listening has a certain amount of time in their day. If we could all do the most with our time, if we could spend the most amount of time in our zone of genius, then we all win. But I can't do that if I'm trying to service everybody at every single layer of marketing support. I was talking to a gentleman earlier today who runs a marketing agency locally. And I was like, wow, this guy knows way more about media buying than me. This is great because if I need if someone asks me about media buying, now I can just ask him. This is what it's about. But I do think that is unusual. I think that there is a lot of businesses, a lot of people who think that, and we all have our own financial situations as well, but like, if I don't get this deal, like I'm going to not be able to pay my mortgage and all these things. And that's scarcity zone. And I want to share this. I want to share this story with you guys. So I had gotten to the point in my business where I was like, well, crap, I have no idea where I'm going to get this money. I had a coach at the time and I was like, I have no idea where I'm supposed to get this money to pay this coach, right? I had no clue. My husband delivered the mail and I was like, he's like, do you want to look at this? And I'm like, is there any money in there? Because if there's not, then no, I don't want to look at it.
It's another bill.
I went through the stack and probably 14 months earlier or something, I had participated in this Mercedes group lawsuit thing where there was a whole bunch of payouts that they were doing for, I don't know, faulty something or other. And there was a check for $2,500. And I was like, thank you, universe. I had no idea how I was going to pay that. But I don't know. I would love to hear if anyone else has stories in that arena too. But I am a full-on believer that if you believe that the abundance exists, you may not know where it is coming from, but it is available. And if you open the door to it, it manifests.
Yeah, I think that scarcity, a mindset of scarcity breeds a fear. And if you look at human nature, humans want choice, right? If you only give me one, I'll stiffen my back and say, I don't want it. Right?
Yeah,
Because
I have a
you're not
5-year-old.
giving me any choice.
He does that pretty constantly.
And I will say one of the things that we all understand is Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola. And you can argue that there is a difference between them, but I will say that having actually done the Pepsi Challenge as a part of a course, we actually did the testing to study this. Even people with a strong preference and they drink a lot of cola statistically cannot tell the difference between the two. So anyway,
I'm the
you can
anomaly.
argue among yourselves.
I could tell the difference. And
But not to
In the
say that I
last
didn't have
episode, we
people-
were talking about the difference between champagnes as
not
well,
that I
and
had
I
to-
got
not that I didn't have
scolded
people
pretty
that didn't-
harshly.
100% tell. I'm just saying statistically. So here's the deal. What would Coke be without Pepsi? Right? I mean, these are two of the world's leading brands of soft drinks, global. But they need each other to keep each other accountable, right?
McDonald's
to keep prices
won't.
in check, to keep
They
quality
won't put
in.
McDonald's unless there's a Burger King somewhere around it.
I had a boss once
They
that
want
told me,
they want to know that
if-
Burger King's there.
if you have no competition, you have no market.
Well,
Yeah.
I always say that if you're the only one doing something, you're a kook. Because there's a reason why no one's doing it, right? Ingor.
Well, it's the same thing. I'm sorry. It's the same thing as
Rosalinde.
as what Tracy was just saying. You can't satisfy everyone. Everyone has different tastes. Everyone has different needs. So, a burger is not just a burger.
Way different people like a Big Mac than like a Whopper on Wednesday.
Whopper.
Ingor.
Oh my gosh.
Bring some sanity to us.
Well, I was actually just going to share a story because
Please.
I was like in negotiations with somebody that wanted me to do a workshop. And I said, okay, let's meet and talk about what you want. So we did. And then I said, okay, I'll put together a proposal for you. So in my proposal, I had 3 different options, obviously with 3 different price points, right? And they came back to me and said, we would like the lowest price point, but the middle option. Is there any way you can do that for us?
And Ingor was like, hell no. Right?
No, I was, I listened to what he said and I said, okay, let me think about it and I'll send you an email. And you know what? I sent him an email and I said, sure, I'll do that for you. But I would like you to please give me at least 1 recommendation after the fact and 3 to 5 referrals. Do you know what? He came right back and said yes. And the thing is, yes, I lost out on a certain amount of money, right? But
No, it's
now
going to pay.
I'm opening the door to actually being able to earn more money and to be able to offer more workshops to people. And I could have dug my heels in and said, hell no. And
That's what I would have done, by the way.
But that's because you have cool, headphones.
Yeah. You would either have said, okay, then we'll go elsewhere, or he would have said, okay, fine, we'll pay that. But then after that, would he be willing to give me a referral or a recommendation? Maybe
Right.
not. Right. And that's the thing, like it's about perspective.
And what do you value, right? Because Ingor's like the community peep, right? You value those referrals and recommendations, and other people may not value that in the same way. But I love that example because it shows like just because one door quote unquote closes doesn't mean that there's not a bigger, more abundant door. On
For,
that side of the room.
In business law, for a contract to be valid, right, there has to be offer, acceptance, and consideration, right?
Okay.
So you've got to say, I'm going to do this. They say yes. And then there has to be consideration, right? And they don't say cash payment. right? Consideration is the value that's exchanged.
Yes.
And what is the value of those referrals? Well, if you get 4 referrals and you close 1 in 4, if your close rate is 25%, then the value of that referral is the $3,000 or whatever it is that you charge for that session,
Yeah.
right? And it doesn't have to be cash. So offer, acceptance, and consideration. So consideration can be widely defined. And I think this comes back to abundance and scarcity. And Tracy, I love that you have a perspective on winners and losers when it comes down to how we define abundance and how we define scarcity. And we're getting some understanding here. We're sharing some understanding.
Well, in Ingor's
which is it.
example, there was a winner and a winner.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's winners
Exactly.
and winners. You know, it's just you know, when we have children, it's like, okay, not everyone can get a trophy. You know, you've heard this already. It's like when you have those coaches and they're like, yeah, you're either a winner or you're either a
love
loser,
that.
right?
I love that. I did
Okay.
have a friend that was flying out to Washington, D.C., and I said, oh, that's so wonderful. You're going to be there. So make sure that you tell all of our elected officials that we're very proud of them and they're all going to get participation ribbons.
But also, I mean, like, personally, I'm an athlete, right? I grew up playing sports. There's a winner and a loser at the end of every game. But I've also been on the winning team and felt like a loser because I couldn't shoot anything that day. I've also been on the losing team and felt like a winner.
Right.
So I just think it's an interesting dichotomy because we think it's so like black and white, win and lose, but I don't think that that's true. Just like everything else, it's so gray.
Well,
There's not a finality. I think that's what it is. It's a finality. And it, you know,
right. I lose today. We didn't hit enough fast breaks. So what does our coach do? Make us run fast break drills over and over and over again until the next game. And then we win because we're the fastest team. We lose, we learn, we grow, we do better.
Go ahead, Bob.
But think about perspective, right? Let's go back now. What we talked about, like Scott brought up the thing about water, right? We talked about the whole thing, you know, is the glass half full, that is the glass half empty? And I said, I'm just happy to have a glass.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a perspective. Yes, I played a game I won, or yes, I played a game and I lost. The perspective is, I had a great time playing the game, or I'm able to play the game. I'm capable of playing the game. I'm capable of being with my friends and my colleagues or my teammates and being present in that game, in that moment. And that's why I'm there. Yeah, like the outcome is nice. Sure, it's nice to win or it's nice to lose. But what about the idea that, hey, I just got some great exercise? Or, hey, I did this.
I think that.
So again, there's that perspective again, going back to that idea of, you know, words matter, or how, you know, thinking I have to do this versus I get to do this. Right?
And what gives us happiness, right? What gives us happiness?
Right.
And so
I'm going to share one more about my son, because he
please.
played soccer when he was very young. I'll tell two components of that, which were funny. One is there was that age where, you know, we didn't keep score. The kids kept score. I mean, we were mentally keeping score, but the kids were like, it's 3-1, you know, and, you know, the coach was like, oh. The kids are like, it's 3-1, it's 4-1. They were keeping score. So, you know what? Please just let's keep score. Whatever. That's fine.
Right.
You know, but the other thing was my son, he wasn't that great an athlete. He wasn't that athlete. He wasn't driven. Like, he didn't have that kind of that killer mentality,
Right.
but he loved playing soccer because he liked being like with all his friends. Like, I think he just liked the activity of being there. Good enough.
Yeah, having coached junior high track and Pop Warner football for many seasons, I would always talk to the kids that you have to enjoy practice, because you're going to practice a lot more than the games. If you're only in this for the game, you're going to be very disappointed, because we play on the average compared to practice about there's about 5 times as much practice as there is a game, maybe 10 times. And so
you practice 5 times, then you have 1 meet.
Like, go do something different,
Right.
Right? And life is much like that, right? There's a lot of time spent waiting for that one moment. So And then that one moment comes and it's over, right? Yeah, I just think about maybe high school graduation. So if you got a student in high school graduation and you're just looking forward to that celebration, that time, and then they walk over the thing, they get their diploma and they walk off, and it was like 8 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And you missed 4 years of life.
Yeah.
Not to say that the moments aren't important, but it's as we started with Bob, back to the process, right? We were so I was a part of this Rotary Club, and at this celebration, they had this booth that sold chicken, right? So they had the big grill and they're cooking the chicken up, and I was running part of this and had to make sure everyone had their food handler's license, and we did all the stuff, right? And it was weeks of preparation for hours of, about 8 hours of cooking and selling chicken to net out about $200 for the charity that we were donating to, right? And at the debriefing meeting, and they're all talking about it, it's like, wow, we put these weeks in and we put these hours in, and we raised $200. We could have just taken money out of our wallet and in 10 minutes raised more than $200, right?
Oh my God.
But I said, however, we wouldn't have had the time building the relationships with each other that we did in this process. So if we think that we didn't give enough, we can still get out our wallets and we can still do that. But we can't go back and recreate the opportunity to build the relationships of being shoulder to shoulder and saying, we're in this together. Abundance and scarcity. Tracy, I know you're thinking. I'm watching you. You're just going like, your brain's going like.
My brain doesn't turn off. That's all I was thinking. But it's making me think about my experience with Habitat for Humanity. So like I volunteer with Habitat, have for years, and I love going out to build sites, and they let me use power tools that I don't have at home, and like all of these awesome, they train you on them. They're responsible. But it's all volunteer. We don't, like, nobody gets paid as part of doing that. Even the site, like, responsible people, they are volunteers. They just have more knowledge about construction-based things. And it's like one of the most rewarding things I do. It makes me feel like there's like so much available that we can do, that we can give, that when we can give to things that are for people who need them. And then there's like this flow of abundance between humans, because we give what we can give and we take what we need. And if we're really all in this together, there's enough, right? There's enough for people to say, like, I'm working with this nonprofit right now called Struggle is Your Success, and we're doing a sponsorship drive. And there's some packages we've set up, right? $500 one, $7,500 one. And there was a gentleman in my network who was like, I can't make that kind of donation, but I can make a $50 donation. So he made a $50 donation. And I was like, it was the first donation we received as part of the sponsorship campaign. And you should have seen how much of a fire that $50 lit under the like campaign team and the people who are talking about it in social media. Like all of a sudden now it's like blowing up in a whole bunch of areas on LinkedIn because one guy made a $50 donation, and not because he didn't have enough to donate $500. He had enough to donate $50. And I think that there's just, I would challenge people to think about, what do you have and how much of that do you have, and how much more is around if we paid attention. How much love is flowing through your family.
That's the practicing of the generosity. That's the practicing of the gratitude. Because even though he only had the $50, he was saying, without saying it, that I'm grateful that I can at least give this $50. So it's, again, going back to, how are we looking at things? How are we driven by them? How is it that, we're functioning? Are they driving us, or are we taking the reins? He took the reins and he did what he could. And that's all people are just asking. We're not asking for the red carpet here. We're not asking for you to, stretch yourself thin. It's about generosity. It's about sharing what you can, your resources, your energy, your time, because I'm a big believer in you don't put out, it will not come back. So it's a boomerang effect. And that is the thing that you create around you, is having that abundance and positivity. And, a few days ago, I had, just not the best day. And I had to regroup, as I would say. So there are moments, let's be for real. We're not going to be walking around every single day, thinking this is utopia. It is inevitable for us to have these negative moments. It's inevitable. We can't shield ourselves from it. But what we can do is limit the impact it has on us. Be conscious, have a conscious effort in noticing how it is that you're reacting and you're taking in, because whatever you're putting back out is what's going to come out eventually, whether that's negative or positive. So I remember my son saying, Mom, you're not looking, so hot. And I just was like, I said, I'm regrouping. I said, I'll be there in a second. I just needed a time. And that's where I say to people, do the pro. Take that pause. Take that reflection time. And be open to whatever it is that is coming, or whatever it is that you need to learn, whatever it is that, is in that growth moment, because those are moments where you grow, and they may be small and they come in increments, but it's noticing what it is that you have to notice so that you can move forward.
So we're going to be winding down here. So I'll get a final statement from each of you and how people can do business with you. And so that'll be coming up here in just a moment. And I just want to remind everybody, this is Russ Reels every Thursday at 4:00. Most remarkable brains on the planet come together right here in this very room, share topics, and we get great comments. I love Muhammad's comments about the impermanent nature of life, right? And just how fragile it is, right? There are those times when there's a health scare, or a friend or a relative passes. There are things that we have as physical items that are reminders of memories. But remember, when those items go away, the memory is still there, right? We don't lose it. And so just thinking about, what is it that really, really makes you happy? And as we found, it's not things. And for those of you who remember the 80s and the bumper sticker that said, he who dies with the most toys wins. And if you want to live by that philosophy, then your life is already over, because
your kids are going to hate you, because then they have to deal with all of this.
And plenty of people have more stuff than you have. You will not die with more things than Bill Gates, Elon Musk. Pick the billionaire of the moment, right? Apparently, someone bought the winning $1 billion lottery ticket. I forgot to buy one, so I didn't get to contribute to that person's winnings this time. But anyway, let's wind it down, and we'll go back in the same order. We'll start with Roz, Bob, Tracy, and then wind it up with Ingor. So, Roz.
Oh, well, people can find me on LinkedIn, and I think the last little bit that I want to leave with people is, when we have a crowded mind, it leaves no space for a peaceful heart. So I think it's just what we want to emit, what is truth, love, understanding, and we won't get that back if we don't have, you know, that feeling of practicing that gratitude and practicing, you know, the awareness and practicing. This is not, it doesn't need to be complicated. It doesn't need, it's simple. It really, really is. It's just taking that pause first and looking to see who you're going to surround yourself with. Limit yourself in, you know, the negative content that's out there. You know, have a digital detox once in a while. I did it not too long ago, and it was great. So, you know, having that moment of, well, you know what? I'm going to seek out, be proactive in seeking out the group who can expand your mind and, you know, help you in that abundance. Look at your, you know, your coaches and your mentors, and, you know, listen to podcasts, read books, instead of mindlessly scrolling and just thinking, oh my God, the world's going to end, you know, real soon. So just, you know, just take a step back and, you know, surround
So
yourself.
digital detox and mindfully scroll. All right, got it. Bob.
So two things. One about my own, like, you know, happiness. From a professional side, it's the service of others, right? Serving others in my organization through the work that I do, because the work I really do is to kind of help them focus on the right things, right? That's project management. So helping them focus on the right things, or giving the tools to make them better at what they do. And those give me joy. Those give me happiness, knowing I'm helping them and helping the organization and moving forward. From my own personal life, right? It's the using those skills is to get people together, to make those connections, right? To have those, like, we're having dinner party tomorrow, or I have season tickets to the Red Sox, and making those connections and knowing I'm going to plan out those evenings to see my friends and have those times together, to be together, right? And to break bread together, or have conversation together, and have that kind of, you know, have that. That's a great happiness to me. I will leave you because I want to keep the connection point of the other shows is about words matter when we talk about abundance and things like that. And the mindset is, again, words matter, needs versus wants, right? And always keep that in mind. You know, what are the things because there's always things we want, right? You talk about the thing, oh, I want these things, but sometimes just maybe concentrate on the things that you need. Like, here are the things that really I need to get done, or I need to take care of. And if you're concentrating on those, then you should have that fulfillment. Like, I've taken care of those things. Those things are happening, you know, and if you're concentrating on those, not thinking about the wants, those might just become the cherry on top, but you're not thinking like pondering away, thinking all of the things I don't have. You're concentrating on the things you need to have, or fulfilling those needs. And that's an important thing. So again, that need versus want, and think about the words matter for that.
Beautiful.
You're on LinkedIn.
Words matter.
Most of the time.
They do matter.
Yeah.
I was we're just talking about this recently, and the Dead Poet Society. You guys remember the movie Dead Poet Society?
Yeah.
And Robin Williams says, don't say he was very sad. Say he was morose.
Morose.
Right. It's words matter. Tracy.
So you guys have said some great things. First of all, you can find me on LinkedIn. I started this practice last year, decided that every day was going to be the best day ever. And it's been super interesting because it doesn't mean that bad things haven't happened or things haven't worked out the way that I hoped they would, which is where I think most disappointment comes from. We expect something to happen and then our expectations are not met. What if every day was the best day ever? What if today, I mean, a lot of people talk about what if today was your last day? And like, wouldn't you want your last day to be the best day ever? I do. So I started this practice last year. And you know what's really interesting about it? Every day has been a really amazing day. And there's also been days where you're like, how is this gonna work out? I'm not sure, but the day's not over yet, so I'm gonna come do Russ Reels live, and then I know I'm gonna feel better. When you, like Rosalind said, when you can create, I'm sure Ingor is going to touch on community, but when you can create a group of people, or you can find a group of people where you're like, dude, I can always come to these people and they're going to kick me out of scarcity mode if I was there, and I can be in abundance, whatever that looks like for me. You, whatever feels abundant to you, because it's different for all people. That is required to make it the best day ever. So if instead of being afraid of what was going to happen today, what if we got curious about what was going to make this the best day ever?
I love it. I love it. We asked this question in the mastermind, and if you knew you had an expiration date, how would you live life different, right?
Don't tell me the expiration date. Let me just live my life.
Well, and the answer was, I was able to truly say that I wouldn't change what I'm doing. What I do is what I do. And if I knew I had a terminal,
that's the dream, right, everyone?
And that's what I hear from you.
If I died tomorrow,
I'd
be super happy with what I contributed.
So beautiful. So beautiful.
Yeah.
Ingor.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so from the conversation, I think the most important things to focus on are perspective and the language that we use. I want to share a quote with you, and it's from Stephen Furtick. He says, "Your perspective will either become your prison or your passport." I also want to say that, if you think about perspective, really, perspective can change so much, right? And listen carefully, I'm going to say something. So it can change this sentence. So here's the sentence. I saw abundance on the table. Your perspective can change it to say, I saw a bun dance on the table, right? So yes, and in closing, yes, Tracy, let me tell you one thing about community. Community is very important, especially when you're going through something. But we all need community regardless of whether you're in a place of scarcity or abundance. And definitely community can change your place of scarcity into abundance. So if you want to go fast, go alone. And if you want to go far, go together. That's an African proverb.
Well, I love it. Thank you all for joining us and talking about scarcity, abundance. Words matter, your perspective. Make this day the best ever. And when I give talks, I often end with the slide that says, it's not about making money. It's about living a life that makes a difference. And so thank you to each one of you for choosing to live a life that makes a difference. And with that, I'm gonna play the outro, but hang out in the green room. I was gonna say the blue room because that's my favorite color. Thank you everybody for watching.
Bye,
We'll talk to you all
everyone.
soon.
Thank you.
Bye.